All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
Chaos, confusion, autism are soaring through the markets and through the prognosticators, including myself. So let's see if we can sort through some things on the charts today, because we had markets hit all-time highs last week, whereas crypto decided to take another leg down over the weekend. So I want to sort through the jigsaw pieces here and see what we can figure out and offer what I think is my version of an explanation of what I think is happening right now. Welcome to Market Makers, everybody. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I myself was out of town yesterday, so you're getting this video on a Tuesday, but there's a lot going on in the markets. Let's just cover what we know, and then we can talk about what we don't know and what we know that we don't know, but we should know. We'll cover all the bases. So let's start off with last year, 2025. We have to have an agreement here. April 7th, the tariff derangement sell-off low was a major event. Why was it a major event? Because you had the strongest turnaround rally in stock market history. As a matter of fact, people say, well, the S&P finished up, whatever, 15%, 14% for the year. If you traded the low, it finished up 46% off of the low. Now, when you look at the S&P, the largest market in the world, there's a couple of things you need to understand. One, it is the largest market in the world. Just one company, just one of the Mag 7 is worth more than the entire crypto market cap. So we need to look at this because our target for 2025 was 7,000 here on ES. That was hit on December 26th, and we made a new all-time high just last week in the S&P. Now, the max bull case target, which I thought we could push up towards, maybe split the baby at 7,250, was 7,500. This week, we still have Amazon in the Mag 7 reporting as well as Google reporting. You're still in an uptrend, meaning your low retracement here that you started back in October when everybody called the top, and then it went up hundreds of points more, and you still have a series of higher lows. The trend is still intact in the largest market in the world. That's important because we have Bitcoin in the crypto market diverging from this, okay? So we're going to look at that on another screen. Let's just look at an indicator health check. By the way, everything's timestamped below, but I highly suggest you watch the markets piece because this drives crypto, because you'll see this in the next chart as well. We got selling going on. Obviously, momentum is slightly bearish. You have RSI slightly bearish. Your volume's doing nothing. You're just going up and down in a range, making new all-time highs, slightly retracing, bouncing back up. Nothing much has been happening other than new all-time highs. So when we zoom out to the complete cycle of the market, this is an important chart as well. Why? Because again, if you're going to talk about cycles and when they begin, looking at a decennial cycle, you'll be looking in a period of 10 years, which of course would be 2020, which of course would line you up perfectly with the 100-year cycle, the Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920, as well as the pandemic in 2020, 100 years later. This starts our cycle, as you guys know, and gives us a perfect 5-wave fractal. This is not Elliott wave. So this is a 5-wave fractal. Elliott wave is made up rules by people. This is a 5-wave harmonic fractal. So we look at this. We have our wave 3. Took us up to our next big retracement. 4. Fifth wave. Is it terminating here at 7,000 or is it going up to 7,500? The book is still open on that because the trend is still intact. But a couple of key points I want to point out about this. Once we do make this top in the S&P, you need to understand something. What do you need to understand? When we make that top, we're going to get a correction. And then that correction most likely will be in an ABC type fashion. Something like this. Come back up, come back down, okay? Then the market's going back up. Why do I say is the market going back up? Because over the last 70 years, 33 of 36 times, the January effect, when you finish the first 5 trading days of the year higher, 33 of 36 times, you have an average gain of 18% in the market. It's an important statistic. You could say that's cherry picking. No, it's over 70 years. So you have an average of 18% gain in the market. This is a bullish market. I'm sorry to disappoint a lot of people. I do not think you're getting a 50% haircut that people have been calling for since the April 7th lows of last year. You're going to get a retracement. When we look at the retracement sizes on the screen, as we've been talking about, you can get a large retracement. Just some quick market symmetry. I do market symmetry and patterns on the YouTube, guys. If you're interested in the YouTube membership, check that out because you can join the video membership, get all of our education, indicators, block state updates, as well as my pattern education, my deep dives into markets and crypto as well. That's there for members with the convenience of watching it just on YouTube. You can check that out. If you want to join a Discord, you can choose that option as well to join our Discord because our community is awesome. After this 2020 peak, 2020 sell-off, we had the big run up, inflationary run up. And then, of course, we sold off to a throwback of that 2020 peak. Then we had the big run up. Guess what we did after we had that big wave 3 run up? We did a throwback once again to the 2022 peak. Perfect hit right here. You see this? So if we're topping at 7,000, or if we go up to 7,500, what is the likely target for any type of retracement? That likely target is going to be a throwback to the peak that you did right before the April sell-off low, okay? 61.66 all the way down to 58.50, somewhere in that range is where this retracement will ultimately capitulate down to. The question is, again, does it do it from 7,000 or does it do it from 7,500? That's always the question because as of right now, even with today's selling, you're still in a bullish uptrend, ladies and gentlemen. And something else I want to show you on this, let's get rid of some of these lines. I talk about the theory of the markets. There's been a lot of theories in markets, and I want to update Dow theory for crypto, okay? So we'll call this Bren theory. Bren theory on crypto. Crypto moves at a beta. Again, something we can all agree upon. When you're in a strong uptrend, you'll see crypto outperform the NASDAQ to a 2 to 3x beta. Strong downtrend, you'll see crypto outperform to the downside to the tune of a 2 to 3x beta. So what's Bren theory of markets? Bren theory states that stock markets confirm the crypto trend. Right now, you have Bitcoin down 40% with the stock markets making new all-time highs last week. The NASDAQ got within 50 points of an all-time high last week. So, but Bitcoin capitulated. Now, this is where time, we have two components here, time and price. This is where time comes in, and time is important. Let's just overlay Bitcoin so you can get a visual of what I'm talking about. So when we had the 2020 capitulation in this cycle, Bitcoin top, markets top within 2 weeks of each other, right? Within 2 weeks, both sold off dramatically. What about over here in the S&P? We had Bitcoin top in 2021, November 8th. 72 hours later, the Russell topped. Within 2-3 weeks later, the NASDAQ topped. You had about 6 weeks later, the S&P topped, but then what did they do? Crypto went down, okay? Crypto went down after its November 8th peak. The S&P started 6 weeks later, but ultimately they confirmed each other. They confirmed, the stock market confirmed the crypto downdraft to the tune of when crypto rebounded, stock markets rebounded. Stock markets rolled, crypto rolled, they moved together, same with the bottoming structures. You did the same thing over here for the April sell-offs. Crypto peaked before the S&P, like it routinely does over and over again at major turning points. Within a couple of weeks, guess what happened? Crypto was selling off, S&P peaks, S&P sells off. The S&P, the stock markets, confirmed the crypto trend. This brings us to where we are now. So where we are now is Bitcoin topped October 10th. The S&P has been going up for almost 4 months. Previous trend, the longest you had was a 6-week differential. It's been going up for almost 4 months, including a new all-time high last week, whereas crypto shit the bed, peak autism, sold off, and down-legged again, okay? So this is the difference. So Dow theory, you have the Dow Industrials. If they're going up, Charles Dow, he surmised that you have to have the transports as well go up to confirm the uptrend. My theory, Bren theory for crypto is the stock market has to confirm the downtrend. Now, having said that, it's very important to know where your key levels are on the stock market as well as crypto, because we're going to get some price points out of this, and this is how we're going to decide what's happening in the marketplace. But this is where we are in the S&P. Key area, 7,000. Are we going to turn here? This is the area I predicted back at the lows of April that we would get to. Bull case 7,000, max bull 7,500. These were the two areas, and we got there. If we look over at the NASDAQ, what was our 2025 prediction? 25,941. We got there multiple times, including almost a new all-time high within 50 points last week. What's your trend look like off of those April 7th lows? Well, you're still going up in an uptrend. You're starting to make a bit of a rounding top, which can be a topping pattern. But again, with two of the Mag 7 reporting, with earnings coming in strong, you could still see this surge higher. So we're going to look and see how this would affect crypto. We look at Russell because it's a direct correlation to Bitcoin, being that they both topped when you squish this in within 72 hours of each other in 2021, and then both did this, okay? So the Russell was still going up to make new all-time highs as late as January 26th. I think that was last week as well. New all-time high in the Russell, new all-time high in the S&P, and you have a valid trend. There's your April low, higher low, higher low, higher low. You're still in a higher low, higher high situation uptrend, whereas again, Bitcoin is down 40%. Got to see the Russell, if it comes back down 2,500, see if it can hold this level and see if it goes back up again. If not, then we're going to be looking at lower prices. Now, let's jump over to sentiment, and then we're going to go to the crypto space. You're in fear, finally. You were in greed last week with the new all-time highs. You're in fear here on the markets. We look at crypto, you're going to be in extreme fear, and I can tell by some of the comments. There's a lot of people in extreme fear in the markets. This is all part of trading. Markets go up and down. So we're going to look at this. Guys, by the way, if you want to trade these markets, check out SimpleFX. They bring you this weekly video every week. If you live outside the US, check them out. Be a Market Makers VIP. Get our bonus structure. It's all there in the video description. You live in the US and you only like cryptos? Check out Bitunix. That is there as well in the video description. Let's look at total, because total is at a key support level. We look at $2.5 trillion. If this breaks down to go to 2.08 trillion, you're going to see Bitcoin go into the 60s to the low 50s. Okay, that's what you're going to see if this breaks down even further. That's what I think is going to happen. Simultaneously, if total does break down, which does it have to? No, it doesn't have to. You can throw wicks down, right? You can get false breaks down, rebound back up. We're going to look at this from a fractal perspective as well. But you look at USDT, this is stablecoin dominance. We broke above the 618. If we push towards the 786 at 8.250, there's your 2022 lows in crypto over there, up at the 9% range. If we start pushing up to that, you're going to see Bitcoin drop even further. Again, my price range would be 52 to 62. A lot of symmetrical patterns take you there in that price range if this continues to trend upwards. Now, when we look at our head and shoulders pattern, 3 peaks in a domed house. Let's go ahead and look at this. How am I doing on time here? 13 minutes. Okay. So we look at 3 peaks in a domed house. Peak 1, peak 2, peak 3, and here's your domed house, which is a head and shoulders pattern. Now, previously, obviously, it's looking for a symmetrical domed house, which takes you up to 108, right? 108. That lines up beautifully. If your left shoulder, right there at 108, gives you a gorgeous left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We did not get that. We got up to the bare minimum requirement of 98K. 382 retracement, and then we leg down. What is this green line, you may ask? That is a good question. That is the 50 weekly RMA, and breaking below that is very bearish. Why? Because we went over this in a previous video, but the fractal similarities of the fractals to the left over here in 2021 and the fractals to the right, again, like This is just something that's there. It is obvious. Looking at the markets are telling a different story. But when you look at the fractal similarities, here's your 50 weekly RMA. What happened when you broke down? You went on the next leg down. Well, we just broke it on Saturday, okay? We were holding above it. We broke it on Saturday. Question is, are we going to get this next leg down, which will take us into this quadrant 52 to 62K, because this is what we did here. We broke down, ultimately capitulated. That was down to 15.5, okay? You look at these similarities again. I went over this in the last video or in prior videos as well. Where's my magnet? Turn that on. You look at this consolidation here that you did. You did 63 days on this side. You did what, 56, something like that over here. You did 8 bars, 56 days. So again, similar consolidation time periods. You got the next leg down, even though the markets are making new all-time highs, which was not my base case. If you watch my video, I was suggesting this would go up to 108K. I've been saying that for a while, and I was wrong here. It broke down further. The markets went up, was right on the markets, made new all-time highs. Bitcoin capitulated on Saturday. Now, last week, Tom Lee was on. I saw him on CNBC Thursday and Friday, talking about he believes crypto's bottoming and it's about to rebound. Okay, well, we're going to look at that, because when I look at this, what's the next chart? Let's do this chart. Bitcoin on a 3-day chart. When I look at this on Bitcoin, you're at 74.4. You are holding on for dear life. And this is zoomed out because I want to show you some stuff. You're at holding on for dear life right here at 74.5, that fractal low. And that's where you are right now, 74.380. If we look at this pattern, that Wyckoff range where we were going sideways here, we had this nice sideways Wyckoff range. We capitulated down, but we had that nice pattern. Those projections for that pattern target were 76, which we bounced off of, and then 200% takes you to 70,975, so 71K, okay? That takes you there, and that's interesting. Could it just wick down to 71K, which, by the way, was still another 3,700 points lower than you are, which means your altcoins are all going down as well. Could it just do that, rebound off of 71, lines up nicely with these prior tops, pretty close to that 69K over there? It could, but do we have any confluence there? This is what I want to look at, right? If we take this fractal out, which is where you are right now, if you just throw some wicks down to 71, that's not the end of the world. Lines you up right here. But let's look at some other things here with TA. Let's just look at a Fibonacci pull from the low, right? So from the low of 15.5 in 2022, we need to get some fibs on here. Let's look at the 50%. Let's look at the 382, and let's look at the 618, okay? These are the key ones to look at. What do we do on the 382? We bounced right off it at 83.9 right here, right? That was the beginning of our sideways range with our spike up, sideways range with the spike up, and then the capitulation below the weekly 50, capitulation below the weekly 50. So again, fractal similarities. And you can look at this at 382 we bounced off of. We'll look at where the 50% is. The 50% lines up beautifully, literally on top of it, almost to the dollar, of that 71K range. So again, there's some support there. You have the support here as well from these higher levels. But what happens just from that perspective? If you do this move, right? If you do this move and get below 71 and push down, just the 618 retracement off that 15.5 low puts you at 57. Now, again, I dived in for the members. We looked at symmetrical wave patterns with 52K, 62K, more specific price targets. This is 57K just at the 618. But could you do that move? Yeah, you could do that move. What would be required to do that move? That's the question, right? What would be required? What would be required is you look at the S&P. This needs to start retracing. This would need to start retracing to confirm. Bren theory. This needs to confirm the crypto move. And I think this is what you're waiting on to confirm the crypto move is the larger breakdown, right? If you are to break down from here, that's the danger. When would this breakdown happen so you could look for this other leg in crypto? Well, when would this breakdown happen? Let's zoom back out. When do these breakdowns typically happen when you look at this from a fractal perspective? February 19th, right before the pandemic, you peaked, you sold off. February 19th, right before the tariff sell-off, you peaked and you sold off. February 19th, what are we now? February 2nd, February 3rd? February 19th is around the corner, third week of February. If you can survive that, you can go out to the spring equinox, March 21st, right around there, if you survive that. But I think this is what you're waiting for in Bitcoin for a much deeper retracement, is whether the markets want to push up, maybe Bitcoin gets a nice rebound, or are the markets topping and then breaking down from there. If they break down and do that throwback move, and the S&P, I guarantee if the S&P drops 1,000 points, 1,100 points, 1,200 points, you're going to see Bitcoin go down to 52 to 62K. That's just going to happen. If the S&P continues up, you could see some type of rebound in crypto. So that's where we're at right now in Bitcoin at 74,140 as I'm recording this. This is what you need to be aware of. Ultimately, what do I think about Bitcoin prices? I don't think this is like the top of any major cycle. I think there's higher prices still ahead. As a matter of fact, there's a pattern. If this thing does retrace the way I think it's setting up to retrace at this juncture, there's a pattern that would suggest much higher prices. And also when I look at the January effect, how it's played out over the last 70 years, if the S&P does finish higher at the end of the year or some point during the year, maybe a major summer rally, we talked about the possibility of 2 retracements, then I'm very bullish on crypto. This is very good on crypto to get a washout per se, to wash everything out, shake out all the weak hands. This is good. I like this. I mean, I would like it more if it was up. I'm not going to lie, because I was really hoping to long this thing up. But, you know, we got to back in April, on the April sell-off, I've been showing the bearish pattern for over a year, but back here I said the price target was 132 and we got to 126. You know, somebody in the Discord said, dude, that's such a good prediction. Bitcoin was 74K. It didn't get to 132, but it went to 126. But, you know, I guess it's kind of a perfection thing. Really would like to have seen it hit 132. I would like to have seen this go up to 108K. But ultimately, as a trader, you know, this is my full-time job, is I want to look at the markets for what they're doing and not what I want them to do. And this is just where we're at. We got 74K as I'm recording, is dropping a couple hundred points. Watch that 71. That is the next inflection point for a potential move, rebound. And of course, if this thing rejects at the bottom of this area, that's very bearish. And then you're going to see that next leg down. That next leg down is going to take you to 52 to 62. If this all plays out that way. But again, Bren theory, markets have to confirm the crypto trend. Crypto's in a major head start. Just remember that. Like, Bitcoin has peaked almost 4 months ago. A week from today, it'll be 4 months ago Bitcoin peaked, and the markets are still making new all-time highs. That's the difference in a cyclical time perspective. But pattern perspective, I mean, it's there in front of you, right? A lot of you guys have been pointing it out. People on Discord have been pointing it out. I've seen the pattern as well. It didn't do what I expected. It was a nice rebound to 108. But that's where we're at right now, and this is what we're watching. So 71, and then beneath that, you're going to be in this fractal corridor. You can see it right between the Fibonacci lines. That's going to be your major support. Could get a nice rebound at some juncture. Want to see if it holds. If it gets rejected at the base here, comes back up again, we could see something like that. We'll see how it plays out, but just be frosty. This provided a lot of great trading opportunities in this range, buying lows, selling highs, shorting highs, and then getting out of that trade, flipping it, whatever. So it's been fun trading that range, but overall, right now, I mean, this is just bearish price action, and it's all going to depend on Bren theory with the stock markets. Are they going to confirm it? Because if they start selling off, that's your next leg, right? So maybe you get some type of rebound, but your next leg is going to be if the market starts selling off. We look at our pivots. This pivot not playing out that great. Every single pivot since the summer, been over this many times, has played out really quite beautifully. This pivot, this last pivot, we put in the low the very next day, and then we were up, and now we just took out that low. A couple days removed hence. So again, confluence factor, right? This isn't anything magic. This isn't a magic trick, but it's just a confluence factor. We'll see, are we going to keep trending lower to the next pivot? Is it going to try to do some type of rebound and maybe a rejection? I don't know, because right now we're at 74K, and you're seeing prices drop as well. Let's finish this up with Ethereum. And if you guys hang out a minute, if you've made it this far in the video, I'm going to show you some silver charts. because silver's been interesting too. So if we look at Ethereum, where are we at? So pattern, we look at this fractal range that we had right there, the fractal corridor, breakdown targets, 2100, 2108, 1792. Interesting, right? Because we're about to hit 2108. About to hit it. How low did we get today? 2125. About to hit 2108. Where's the April low? Tariff sell-off low right there. First thing we want to do, take a fib. April sell-off low, pull up to the all-time high. We need the 786 because we're past all of those. 786 lines up beautifully right there. You just passed it, 2149, so 2108. So what else do we need to do here? Because you're passing the 786. So in Fibonacci, some advanced concepts in Fibonacci, if you get past the 786 and hold it, you're typically putting in a reversal. Let's go to 2022, just like we did on Bitcoin. Go to 2022, that was a cycle low. Pull this up. Where are we at now? Look where your 786 is now. Your 618 is 2436, which you can see here, right? You had all these clusters lined up on that 618 as well. Knifed right through it here. Your 786 is down here to 200% at 1800. So 2108 is a target of support to hold. Lines up right with the base of these fractals as well. But if you take out 2108, look for 1800 on Ethereum, because Ethereum at 1800, it's like your last gasp for holding that April 7th low, which is 1385 at the low. So watch these structures. Again, my theory, Bren theory, is the stock market has to confirm the downtrend, but you cannot live in a vacuum and not see that this breakdown that occurred Saturday was a major event destroying the possible potential accumulation structures and sending them to the downside. So you got to look at these downside targets and be aware of them. Let's talk about silver, a little bonus minute on silver. So I made a video for members a few days prior to the silver peak coming in. Talk about perfect timing. And the video was on parabolic arcs. And I just went back in history to 1980 because typically where you see parabolic arcs, it's in the metals. Hunt Brothers Silver Squeeze, parabolic arc. Look at this, sideways, sideways, sideways. Boom. Got the big arc. January 1980. Within 3 months after that arc, you were down 76%. So March of 1980, you were down 76%. Interesting, right? Look at this long dead time frame. This is my first silver buys in high school at under $5 in the late 90s. So we look at the long dead time frame. You got a little bit of a parabolic arc running up into the GFC. Silver sold off 61%. After the GFC sell-off, you had the 2011 metals peak. This is a definite parabolic arc. When you had that parabolic arc, you also had a nice sell-off. The initial drop over here was 35%. Then you rebounded. Then you went down 50%. Then you rebounded. You know what you ended up finishing if you want to count the 2020 low, because that was the low in the cycle. Check this out. So here's what you did in silver. If you go to that 2020 low, oh, look at that. Talk about some market symmetry. 76%, 76%. Minus $36, minus $38, right? Basically a complete round trip, 76%, 76%. So what does this leave you where you are now? Well, that's a great question. You look at where you are now, parabolic arc, unprecedented. Look at the arc as far as terms of the actual price, SpaceX rocket liftoff. Parabolic arc. We got up to 121. We sold off. What was the initial drawdown in this sell-off? Let's get rid of these lines. The initial drawdown, this is a little bonus hour in this video because we're going to hit 30 minutes. Lee's going to tell me my videos are too long. Initial drawdown, 41%. Where would this likely go? And before somebody says, you don't understand, bro, this time's different, world wars, Trump's a crazy man, crazy economic policies, global uncertainties. I get it. I get all that. I don't care. Just talking about from a chart perspective. Where is this likely to go? Well, we did a 76% retracement, right? We did a 35%, then a 50%, then a 76% retracement off this parabolic arc. I think there's a likelihood if you fail at 103.45, if you fail to retake $103, you'll be going back down to a substantial higher low, but it's still people will be upset about this, but basically 50 bucks. If you cannot flip 103, you should be looking out for $50 in silver. Again, this would be the premise of retesting the prior high, basing, holding a higher low structure. This $50 range basically held from 1980 all the way to 2011 till you broke through it here in 2025. Could it land higher? Sure. But when I look at this from a measurement perspective, just looking at this, if you came down to that $50 level, you're looking at a 59% decline. If you hold higher up, where could it go? You know, I mean, you're already at 83, right? 83, you're at a 37% decline. It already went down 42%. So I think if you fail to take out 103 and flip it and contest with the all-time high, just be on the lookout for steeper declines, because 58%, again, this is just norm, right? You did 50%. I would just, in my head, I would just think 50% retracement, Dow theory retracement makes sense. You look at this on a daily, this is where you're at. There's your all-time high right here. Here's your retracement. You need to flip 103 and a half. 103 and a half right there. 103.45. You got to flip that line, get above it, contest with it. You can go up and down, but ultimately you want to break above it. If not, you need to be on the lookout. And down here, this is where you need to be on the lookout. Right down there in the $55 range on silver. You can see that. You're halfway there. So we'll see how it plays out. Got to look for that rebound. Guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a follow on X at Market Canary. Hope to see you in the Discord. Talk to you in the next one.